Welcome back, Mr. Witness. May I remind you that you are still under oath before I pass the floor to Madam Chair for continuation of our proceedings. Thank you.
Welcome back, Mr. Sow.
Thank you.
We had to interpose because we asked another witness to present some certain documents.
Okay.
And we gave him time.
Okay.
So we may proceed. Counsel. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stoll, I'll refer you to page 24 of the audit report that we were looking at.
Which page, ma'am?
24.
24, yes, yes.
Now, it is observed at paragraph 6.15 that a joint account was opened, a joint account was supposedly opened by Basse Area Council with 5C Energy Limited. Can you tell us about that?
So what happened here is Basse Area Council went into an agreement with 5C. It's a company that has provided them with, I think, a digitalized receipt or digitalized revenue collection system. And part of the agreement was that they would have joint account where both parties would be signatories to the account. And so that once collections are made, monies or funds are lodged into that joint account for the purpose of the sharing of the revenue. I think the audit team observed that that was in the contract, but that was a clear violation of the LGA Act, which prohibit the council from having another third party to be signatory to the account. I think sometimes along the line there was some communication between the council and the company, saying that this was flagged, saying that they cannot go ahead with the joint account. But the company wrote back and said, no, you will have to, because this is part of the contract that you have signed. So we did not see any evidence of the joint account being opened. So we assume that that never happened. And the other thing is that, because we couldn't see any funds being shared between the company and Basse Area Council. So the contract was for a number of years, but the audit team did not have evidence to indicate that there has been any revenue sharing between Basse Area Council and 5C.
Do you know whether the contract was implemented in any way? Because from what I see, they were meant to share the revenue 50-50 in the first and second years. Third and fourth year, 45% to 5C Energy, 55% to Basse Area Council. Fifth and sixth year, 40% to 5C and 60% to Basse Area Council, and it goes on till the 10th year. So it appears that it's a 10-year contract, and Basse Area Council would be sharing its revenue with a third party. Do you know whether any authorization was obtained to enter into such an agreement?
No, that evidence wasn't provided to the audit team, so we could not, we were not provided with evidence to indicate that the council had the authority from the local government ministry to enter into such agreement. And so the other thing also pertaining to this profit revenue sharing, there was no evidence provided to the audit team with respect to how much was collected and what percentage went to who, to the 4C, and then what went to Basse Area Council. So the conclusion from that is that even though the contract went into effect and 5C did provide those machines that provide digitalized receipts, there is no evidence that any revenue has been shared between 5C and Basse Area Council. So we don't know what happened. I guess we saw correspondence where 5C continue to write to demand payments, but we have no evidence that Basse Area Council has made payments.
Are you in a position to provide the Commission with the agreement as well as the correspondence between the Council and 5C?
Yes.
Could you kindly provide that at a later date?
Sure.
Thank you.
Council, may I ask?
Of course.
Yes. You have indicated in your observation that 5C Energy Company Limited contract to the Basse Area Council was to provide digitalized system. Where you availed for you to verify the system that was provided to them?
Yes, they had provided them with machines that would provide digitalized receipts. Yes, that was verified. They did actually provide them with the system.
Thank you. Council, you can proceed.
Thank you. I note that the audit report has referred to the provisions of the Local Government Finance and Audit Act on appropriation of funds, but the Public Finance Act also would apply to this situation because Section 19 of the Public Finance Act provides that a public officer shall not enter into an agreement or arrangement for the receipt or custody of public money by an outsider unless the minister has first given authorization in writing for the agreement or the arrangement. And under this act, the minister is the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. I'm just wondering, is there a reason that it's only the provisions of the Local Government Act that are prevalent in the report?
That's the act that the audit team have reviewed. I'm sure that the act that you cited might be relevant as well, but then for the purpose of the audit, it was just limited to this to the Local Government Act.
Okay. Thank you.
Further to that, you had recourse to the Local Government Finance and Audit Act, and specifically, to be more specific, Section 13 sub 3 of the Act.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, page 26 of the report deals with improper filing system, and this is something that has been prevalent in pretty much all the audit reports in respect of this particular council, and I note that it's still an issue at the time of preparing this report. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I mean, this was really, poor document management. It was difficult. As the audit team has noted, there has not been a proper filing system in place, and this does impact the ability to easily locate documents once they are needed. So this was just because part of the audit exercise is also to look at all the processes to see where improvement needs to take place and be highlighted. Even if there is no financial component, we only don't look at financial component in our audit. We look at also all the issues that are relevant for the day-to-day functioning of the council. And this is really part of that, just to make sure that everything that we think is relevant is observed and the recommendation made for improvement.
Paragraph 6.17 talks about mobility in the council, that there's no mobility in the council. This is again another issue that arose from the national audit reports, because we had calls to look at this issue previously. They didn't have a register of assets that contained all the assets that the council had, which would include vehicles and things like that. Yeah. And they were using, staff were using their own personal vehicles. So I know that this is still an issue. Yes. Can you?
Yes, I mean, it's still an issue, as the audit team has indicated, I don't think the council has a lot of vehicles that they use for their official functions. So what has happened is staff tend to use their own personal vehicle to run council's affairs, including, of course, having to bear the cost of maintaining those vehicles as well. We thought that that is not ideal. That's why it's an observation in the report, so that council is able to try to procure their own vehicle for council activities.
They have responded that they will be purchasing, well, they have budgeted for the purchase of one vehicle, of a new vehicle in 2023. Having seen the issues on the ground, do you think that one vehicle would be sufficient to address the issues that are raised in the report?
I don't think it is. I'm sure it's probably because of budgetary constraint. Maybe that is why they are budgeting for just one vehicle for 2023. But obviously, they need more than one vehicle to carry out council activities.
So you had stated in the report that the council has been responsible for regular maintenance and fueling of those vehicles. And at the beginning of the report, there was also the issue of no fuel log being maintained by the council.
Yeah.
What are the joint risk implications of these two?
Well, I think that without having a fuel log, the council would not have an account of how much they are spending on fuel. Who is being allocated what. It's important that they have a fuel log, and so that the council would know how much stock they purchase per month, for instance, and how much is allocated to individual or for the purpose of running council activities. In the absence of that, it's difficult. They could be spending way too much money on fuel, and some of that would be used for personal errands. So that's the risk of not having maintained a fuel log. And of course, when people use their own personal vehicle, I'm assuming the council would provide them with fuel. It is just natural that they will use their vehicles with council fuel to run their own personal errands.
Thank you. They have said that they will purchase a vehicle as soon as they start receiving payments of demand notes and government rates. It's 2023. It's now middle of the year. Do you know whether they've done anything towards that recommendation?
Well, I mean, it's council's obligation, responsibility to be collecting, rates. So there is no evidence that is presented to us. Indicating that they have collected sufficient, revenue to purchase a vehicle or otherwise. But like I said at the beginning, most of these are management responses, and what we do as internal auditor is to hold management to these to their promises. This is what they promise to do. In response to our recommendation. So, a follow-up audit would determine whether some of these recommendations or some of these promises by management are actually being followed through.
I'm just being reminded that it's time for prayers, Chairperson.
Yes, it's time for prayers. But before we go, let me just ask this question. You have noted that government subvented 2 million
Correct.
to the council, right?
Yes.
And then you've explained what the provision of section 6 subsection 3 has indicated, that it is normally by way of grant.
Right.
And you have explained when and how the councils can access that particular grant.
Right.
And then you went on to further observed that an amount of 2 million was subvented to the Bassa Area Council,
right,
for the implementation of a project.
Correct.
And you said the moment the amount was received, 1.3 million was withdrawn by Naba Krubali on the 18th of December 2021 by the council, and another withdrawal of 150,000 and another withdrawal of 800,000 was made from the bank by the same person. Interview with Mr. Krubali about the withdrawals, he claimed that 800,000 was deposited to Vista Bank, right? And 300,000 was also deposited to Supersonics, and 100,000 was given to the chief executive officer, that is the CEO, and the remaining 100,000 was given to the finance director. The 300,000 he claimed to be deposited in Supersonic was on the 17th of December, before the withdrawal of the 1.3. And what you did was you did an annex.
Yes.
Showing exactly who withdrew what. And you further indicated that the Director of Finance withdrew another 400,000 from the council's account, which was from Vista Bank. And on the 23rd of March 2023, you said he refunded 100,000. And the audit team still insists that the Director of Finance must refund 100,000 from the subvention. Naba Krubali is also said to yet to refund 300,000. And you further also went on to note that 26,894,181.02 loan from the bank without approval from the ministry was taken by the council. And you also noted that section 14.1 of the Finance and Audit Act has given them power to borrow. A council which says a council may, with the prior approval of the minister, can raise a loan for the discharge of its function. So my question is, what happened to the 26,894,181 together with these additional sums that I quoted earlier, and these withdrawals from Trust Bank, 1.6 million on the 13th of January 2020, another withdrawal on the same 13th of March 2020 from Ajib Bank, 1 million, 27th of July, Ajib Bank, 415,234.25, 27th of August, 665,600, on the 22nd of January 2021, 1 million, 25th of June 2021, 850,000, 7th of September 2021, 10 million, 14th of October 2021, 5 million, 24th of January 2022, 4,663,346.77, and 23rd of June, 250,000. Then you have 22nd of September, 800,000, and 8th of September, 250,000, and on the 11th of October, from Reliance Finance, 400,000, which gives you the total amount of 26,894,181.2. So before we go for the break, because there are a series of such amounts been missing, you understand, between the Director of Finance, the CEO, and the acting, which you have tabulated and made clear as to when these withdrawals were done. We will come to all these sums when we come back from the break. But I just want you to give us an idea of, you understand, what happened.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I think it's better to take them individually.
Okay.
Let's say starting with the 2 million, the government subvention.
Yes.
Which was received on December 17, 2021.
Yes.
So the evidence that was obtained was that once the subvention was received, the 2 million, the cashier, Ndaba Krubali, did withdraw 1.3 million from the bank. It's a trust bank account. By that time...
So, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
So during the course of your auditing, did you find out when this money was withdrawn? On
Yes.
what project was it
Well, the thing, that was the difficulty that the audit team had to grapple with, because they were just withdrawing money from one account and paying it to another. So they were just moving money around. And so it was difficult to tie those withdrawals to specific projects, to specific payments. Rather than using bank checks to pay vendors or contractors, they would withdraw the cash and then be making cash payments themselves. So let's say, for instance, if they withdraw the 1.3 million, if the cashier decides to keep that money, she would be paying the vendors, and there is no reconciliation between the finance director, who actually authorizes those withdrawals, and the cashier. So sometimes they would withdraw money from one account and then from one bank account and then pay it to a different bank account, or split it among different bank accounts. So that's why we're trying. I mean, and it's always difficult to see how that money was spent. So that is why, because we have not been provided evidence tying those withdrawals to specific payment. That is why we are calling them unauthorized withdrawal, because that is not how the council should operate. That is not good accounting practice. Payments are supposed to be supported with payment vouchers, and checks are supposed to be made to vendors, not to staff, individual staff, and the staff having to make payments, to different vendors. So, an example was the 1.2 million, which was a subvention. The cashier withdrew 1.3. She at some point paid 100,000 to the finance director, 100,000 to the CEO, and paid another 800,000 to Vista Bank, paid 300,000 to Supersonic. So it was just a confused financial arrangement that the council undertook, and we were not able to tie those payments, those withdrawals, to specific payments. There was no evidence to say that this 1.3 million was spent on paying this or procuring that. That was not possible because of the way the accounting was done.
So for the monies that were paid to the banks, that is Supersonic and
Vista.
And Vista Bank.
Yes.
Were there withdrawals made? Were you presented with statements showing whether those monies were withdrawn or whether those monies are still in the bank?
No, they are not. Of course, we had access to the bank statements, and we saw with payments to those bank accounts at the same time withdrawal. They would make deposit and turn around and make withdrawal. So. That, yes, we've seen evidence of whatever payments, deposits have been made, they've turned around, and they also and make a withdrawal as well.
Okay. All right.
At some point, we were able to do a reconciliation of some of these withdrawals, and just to try to make sense of where the money went, to the various banks and to the various accounts, and who got what. With respect to these 2 million, we were able to narrow it down to a point where I think there was 1,000 we couldn't account for. Sorry, 10,000. And the cashier actually agreed that, she agreed with the audit team that the 10,000 is something she has to pay back. So we were able to determine from the 2 million, what got paid to who. But that doesn't mean that, let's say, the payment, the 100,000 to the CEO and the finance director, we are not able to track what was that money used for. We just know that this was how the 2 million was distributed among the different parties. But what they did with the money, we are not able to have evidence to substantiate how that money was spent.
Okay, so then the next issue, that is the withdrawals from the different bank accounts, because these are different from the 2 million.
Yes.
Yes. So can you tell us something about
the way the council basically operated is they just operated a cash-based system. Like I said, they were not making checks to vendors. They would just withdraw money and then keep it with themselves and be paying vendors. And so that is difficult to track. That is, we could not tie payments. Obviously, some of the withdrawals were made to genuine vendors, but it's without having supporting documents tying those withdrawals to those payments. It's difficult because that's not how the accounting system is supposed to function. At least if they had proper record of those withdrawals and tying those withdrawals to specific payments, yes, you can excuse the fact that they violated accounting principle or good practice by withdrawing funds and holding them with them. But if they had kept proper record of the withdrawals and then tying them against payment until they zero out, then at least you can say, okay, fine, we know where the money went. But in this instance, we cannot. We have no evidence to conclude that the money was spent on X, Y, and Z. Even though it's reasonable to assume that those withdrawals have been used to finance council's activities, because I'm sure they've made genuine payments, they've paid salaries, they've paid other things, and all those funds were from the withdrawals they made.
Yes. Would your explanation go to substantiate also, the same thing for the 26,894,181.2?
Yes. It says a loan from this. Our observation for the 26 million was that they've contracted these loans without having the proper approval from the Ministry of Local Government, because they are allowed, the regulation that we cited give them the authority to contract loans, but they have to have a prior approval from the ministry before they're able to do that. Yeah. So that because ultimately, for instance, because they are local government, if they take loans and default on that loan, technically the government of the Gambia could make those loans good. They can be held liable for those loans. So that is why the consent of the minister should be sought, so that they make a due diligence on the need for those loans. Because the government can be left with the burden of having to service those loans.
Yes. Now, if I may come in again, you have also said that their council was not aware of 15 million and a 10 million, that is 10 million from Supersonics Microfinance,
yes,
and 5 million from Vista Bank. Mm-hmm. That even their own council was not aware.
Correct.
That they took these monies,
yes,
from these banks.
Yes.
Yes. Can you shed light on
yes,
that?
because normally, the CEO and the finance director should not be able to commit the council without having the approval of the general council, without having a resolution, for instance, by the council authorizing them to enter into a loan agreement with a particular bank. So the audit team has discovered that yes, the council was aware or have given at least approval on some of the loans, but the 5 million and the 10 million was something that they were not aware of. So you can conclude that this was probably done behind council's back, by the chief executive and the finance director, because council wasn't aware of those loans.
And during the course of your exercise, were you able to find out where this $15 million has gone to?
No, we are not.
You were not presented with any information, document, project, or activity that they might have used this money for?
Well, like I said, Madam Chair, that's the challenge the audit team had, because it wasn't. I mean, if they had entered into a loan agreement with a bank and used the proceeds of the loan to make payments, and those payments went directly to a vendor or to a contractor by way of check, then you can easily do a reconciliation and see how that money was spent. But in this instance, that did not happen because everything for them was cash. So, and we were not able to tie those withdrawals that they make from the bank to specific payments. So, like I said, I'm sure some of this or most of this money went to the council to pay council's activities, but we could not make that linkage. We could not make that connection because the way they run, the affairs of the council when it came to finance.
You have also stated in your report that they collect tax, trade license, etc.
Yes.
So, and during this period, they have taken over 26 million loan. And what happened to the taxes they were collecting?
Somewhere in the report, we have noted that there is a drop in terms of their revenue projection. I'm assuming that part of the loan, because it seems, the council was always operating an overdraft. They had hardly been in the green. They're always in the red. So what the audit team has observed that is like they will get money from one bank and then run and pay another, and then get money from another and then run and pay another. So they were just shuffling money around. So it was difficult to establish what the true financial state of the council was because of the way it was being run. Yes, they were still doing projects, and they were, collecting revenue. But I think the council was in a deep financial hole, so that whatever comes in get easily swollen in, because there would be a loan to service or an overdraft to pay.
Yes, you have also indicated that the finance director paid into his own account $6.4 million.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, this was also evidence obtained by the team that the finance director actually had registered a business and was paying council funds into that account. That was in violation of council policy, council rules, but that was evident that was obtained by the audit team.
So, by way of just going further, were these monies refunded to council account? Were you aware if there were
no, not to. There is no evidence that was brought to the audit team that those monies or funds have been refunded back to council.
So the business entity that you are referring to, if according to your report, is the Alatentu agency?
That's correct, ma'am.
All right. I think it's a convenient point to stop for prayers and lunch. We will reconvene. Thank you so much. We may rise.